Christmas Story or the Santa Claus, or you got like the first Die Hard movie if you're one of those people. But I think the Christmas movie that really defined my generation at least was Home Alone. And just like I do for a lot of movies or TV shows here on my channel, I thought I would take a look back now that I'm a little older, and I see things a little bit different, and just see how it holds up. So I did, and there was one thing that really struck me about Home Alone after I finished it. This movie makes absolutely zero sense. Take a seat, let me show you what I'm talking about. So the movie starts out with the McAllister family preparing for their big trip to Paris the next morning. Tensions are high, everyone's on edge, scrambling to get everything ready, and in the middle of all of this, we meet Kevin.
Mom, Uncle Frank won't let me watch the movie, but the big kids can. He's just being a jerk.
Kevin, if Uncle Frank says no, then it must be really bad. No, we're not bringing the dog. Put it in the kennel for the... Hey, get off. Kevin, out of the room.
Hang up the phone and make me, why don't you?
There's nothing more 90s than having like the main character kid be like super obnoxious to everyone, I don't know what it was, but 90s kids all had this like attitude, like what was that? Like every commercial was like, your parents are so dumb, right kids? Radical. Anyway, we find out pretty quick that literally no one likes Kevin at all. For pretty obvious reasons, to be fair. But then we meet Buzz.
Buzz?
Don't you know how to knock, phlegmwad?
I feel like every family has at least one Buzz, you know what I mean? Just like the worst kid with the ugliest face. Like, where do these kids even come from? Anyway, Buzz over here starts telling Kevin about their neighbor, Old Man Marley.
He walks up and down the streets every night, salting the sidewalks. See that garbage can full of salt? That's where he keeps his victims. The salt turns the bodies into mummies.
Yeah!
Look out! Remember when you were a kid and everyone just made up like the dumbest stories? If your Tootsie Pop wrapper has a Native American with a star on it, you get a free Tootsie Pop. How did like every kid know this rumor even though no one ever got a free Tootsie Pop? Anyway, so the pizza comes and as usual, Kevin's left out of the party.
The kind of traveler's checks that don't work in France.
Did anyone order me a plain cheese?
Well, yeah, we did. But if you want any, somebody's gonna have to barf it all up, because it's gone. Get a plate!
So this scene actually just kind of goes on for a while, and like if you go back and watch it yourself, you'll see what I'm talking about. But like, sure, Kevin's annoying or whatever, like, yeah. But like, let's be honest, okay? Because this whole entire family is unbearable. Every kid is Sid from Toy Story, and every adult is like that one coworker in your office who you're always just like 2 seconds away from slapping across the face. Anyway, so Kevin gets mad and pushes Buzz, which makes him spill the milk, and then the dad spills the Pepsi, and then it's all just pandemonium.
Look what you did, you little jerk.
Finally, Kevin's mom has had enough, and she takes him upstairs to the dungeon. And here's where Kevin foreshadows like the whole rest of the movie.
Everyone in this family hates me.
Then maybe you should ask Santa for a new family.
I don't want a new family. I don't want any family. Families suck.
Just stay up there. I don't want to see you again for the rest of the night.
I don't want to see you again for the rest of my whole life. And I don't want to see anybody else either.
So that night is a Christmas miracle. A storm blows in, a tree falls over, and knocks out all the phone and power lines. Now this, of course, turns all the clocks and phones off, and the whole family sleeps in.
Peter! We slept in!
But thanks to the magic of Hollywood, they all make it just in time. Not everyone, of course, because turns out they forgot one little thing. I never noticed this before, but like Kevin's I Just Woke Up hair is basically every male J-pop group ever. Anyway, so Kevin kind of wanders around his house looking for his family. But more importantly, I gotta say, what is it with the 90s and everyone having just the biggest houses, okay? You got Home Alone, Full House, probably a bunch of others I can't even think of right now, but like every family, no matter what they did for a living, they all lived in these like 10,000 square foot mansions. Maybe the 90s really were a magical time. Anyway, so this is where Kevin realizes his newfound superpowers.
Kevin, you're completely helpless. No, Kevin, you're what the French call les incompetents.
Kevin, I'm going to feed you to my tarantula.
Kevin, you are such a disease.
I made my family disappear.
So then we do a montage of Kevin doing all this stuff his family wouldn't let him before, like eating as much ice cream as he wants, or, you know, like riding his sled down the stairs and somehow going straight out the front door, even though, like, I mean, how does that even work? But you know, this is the part of the movie that every kid loved. Just this idea, you know, where it's like you're home by yourself, no parents, no stupid older brother, older sister, or whatever. You can just do whatever you want. I was thinking about now kind of makes me laugh, because like, if I had the whole house to myself now, I mean, I'd probably just take a nap, let's be real here. But anyway, earlier in the movie, there was a police officer going from house to house checking on people for the holidays, but turns out he was actually a house burglar scoping out the place. That night, he and his buddy try to break in, but Kevin turns on the lights and scares them away.
I thought you said they were gone.
We're supposed to leave this morning.
Let's get out of here.
Now, fearing they might come back, Kevin rigs up the most complex animatronic setup this side of Disney World, okay? Like, this was something else with, like, 80s and 90s kids movies, you know? Because, like, somehow every kid was just a genius of mechanical engineering. Kevin's, like, what, 8? And somehow he not only thought all this stuff up, but dragged all these mannequins around the house and hooked everything together. You're like, what if the burglars didn't even come back and he was just dancing around with mannequins all by himself like some kind of weirdo? But, as luck would have it, it ends up working and scares the burglars away. But, like, to be fair, I think that has more to do with the fact that no one wants to set foot in a house with that many mannequins in it, because I mean, hello? Like, what kind of house you living in, Kevin? Now, after all of this, Kevin orders some pizza. But just like one scene earlier, you know, Kevin's dad is trying to call his neighbors to go check on Kevin, but he can't get a hold of anyone because remember, back at the beginning of the movie, all the phone lines were cut by the tree. So how did Kevin order the pizza? Now, I'm sure I'm not the first person to bring this up, but the whole point of the movie is that Kevin's family can't call him because the phones don't work. And like, okay, so he orders pizza by phone, which is the only way that makes sense because this is the 90s after all. So he must have spoken to someone at the pizza place, right? Why does he go through all the trouble of using the VHS tape to talk to the pizza guy? He still pays the money anyway, so like, why is this even happening? This whole scene makes no sense whatsoever. Anyway, so the two burglars stake out all night to see what's going on, since they were so sure before that the house is supposed to be empty. Now, the next morning, they realize that Kevin is home alone. Oh, I get it now.
Hey, look, that house is the only reason we started working this block in the first place. Ever since I laid eyes on that house, I wanted it. So let's take it one step at a time, okay? We'll unload the van, we'll get a bite to eat, and we'll come back about 9 o'clock.
You know, the first rule of being a house burglar is to loudly shout your plans to each other in public in the middle of the day, okay? I mean, come on, everyone knows that. So that night, Kevin goes to the local church, where he runs into Old Man Marley. Oh no, Kevin, run! He's coming for you! Actually, he just wants to talk about family and stuff.
Came to hear my granddaughter sing, and I can't come and hear her tonight. I'm not welcome.
At church?
I'm not welcome with my son. Years back, before you and your family moved on the block, I had an argument with my son.
I told him he could only wear his weird dog costume on weekends, and he was like, "It's my persona, Dad, you don't understand."
You can get beat up for wearing something like that.
Oh?
Yeah, I have a friend who got nailed because there was a rumor he wore dinosaur pajamas.
See, right? That's what I said. And then I threatened to take away all his Sailor Moon toys, and well, you know, here we are. So they become best friends, and Kevin goes home, which, by the way, he apparently just left the door completely unlocked, even though he knows two burglars are coming that night. So, like, what are you doing, Kevin? And that's when everything goes down.
This is my house. I have to defend it.
Now, this penultimate part of the movie, pretty much everyone knows, right? Kevin sets up this Rube Goldberg machine of the most elaborate, life-threatening booby traps you can imagine. Like, seriously, this is all cute and fun because it's a movie. But, like, any one of these would probably kill a person. Like, at the very end of all of this, okay, Kevin finally calls the cops, which, I mean, like, why now? Okay, like, you know how to hook up a lever pulley system for a flamethrower, but calling the fuzz never crossed your mind till now, Kevin? But then comes my favorite part of the movie, the zip line of time travel. Because, like, Kevin jumps on, right? And then suddenly he transforms into, like, a 40-year-old man for, like, 5 seconds. Yeah, I got a lot of questions for this movie, okay? So finally, the cops show up and catch the wet bandits, who are somehow still alive after all this, and everything turns out fine. Then it's Christmas morning, and Kevin gets the greatest present of all.
Merry Christmas, sweetheart.
I'm not crying, you're crying. Shut up. But like, let's be real here, okay? Because you know that Kevin's gonna hold this over his mom's head for the rest of her life. Kevin, did you max out all my credit cards just so you could buy this weird dog costume? It's my persona, Mom. You'd know that if you weren't so busy flying to Paris and leaving an 8-year-old kid home alone on Christmas. You know, I gotta say, Home Alone is not a bad movie per se. I mean, it's just your typical 80s, 90s kids adventure movie where adults are all bumbling idiots and kids all have PhDs in civil engineering, you know? And like, I know I'm just kind of repeating myself here, but really, nothing in this movie makes any sense. Like, not even a little bit. Home Alone exists as a sort of time capsule of how, like, in the 90s, you have so many of these classic, beloved movies, you know, and most of them are just bizarrely nonsensical. I think the only way that anyone could really enjoy this movie at this point is if you have nostalgia for it already. Because, like, I'm sure if you show this movie to a kid nowadays, they'd be like, what the heck is this old garbage? And you know what? They'd be right. Hey everybody, thanks for watching. So this concludes the Christmas portion of our program. Now, last year I did the Santa